Greetings everyone, my name is Dr. Jason Freeman and I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. In this video I'm going to review the book Create Something Awesome, How Creators Are Profiting from Their Passion in the Creator Economy by Roberto Blake. I'm going to tell you what I liked about the book, I'm going to tell you what I didn't really like about the book, then I'm going to tell you why I think you should read the book or just skip it. Now at any point feel free to click the notification bell or subscribe to my channel to get more content. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, the book Create Something Awesome provides practical advice on how to create a successful online business. So the author of the book, Roberto Blake, is an entrepreneur who has over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, as well as a little over 20,000 followers on Instagram, and then he's also present on other platforms as well. And in the book, Roberto writes about a wide range of topics, such as how to monetize your creative content, how to choose a platform. Also, he mentions kind of being platform agnostic, as well as how to deal with certain issues such as imposter syndrome or dealing with criticism of your creative work. So what do I like about the book? Well, the first thing I like about the book is that it provides actionable, practical advice. Now, unfortunately, in the motivational speaker space, you get a lot of cliches such as, work smarter, not harder. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. Life is what you make. It's things that are sound good, but don't really have much substance. Now, in the case of Roberto's advice, it's always something very practical. For example, how to be consistent in regards to your output of creative activity. So rather than saying, just be consistent, consistency is a king, which is the title of the chapter, he goes into detail as to this is how I've been consistent over time in regards to my content on YouTube. It also gives kind of practical advice for being consistent on different platforms as well. For example, how often should you post to kind of get the best results in regards to your monetization and number of subscribers, followers, so on and so forth. And this brings me to the second thing I really liked about the book. That basically Roberto is pretty agnostic when it comes to using or what platform to use in regards to social media. Now, he's a big YouTuber. As I mentioned, he has over 500,000 subscribers as of when I'm recording this video. But he, again, has presence on Instagram. He's all over the place in regards to his content. And so with that, he talks about how to do things not just on YouTube. He also talks about how to do things on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all these different platforms. And so if you are a content creator on any of those platforms, he has advice that will be pertinent to your output. And he also focuses on his advice in regards to the specific way you're also producing content. Shorts, for example, versus long form content. And so with that, as someone who has a presence on Facebook where I'm monetized and on YouTube where I'm just really beginning and don't really have many subscribers at all as of when I recorded this video, it's really important to have advice on both those things and how to kind of work in those areas. Also things I'm aspiring to do, such as doing a podcast one day. I'll be able to refer back to this book and use that when I'm thinking about doing that, or maybe have a different book out at that point. But the point is that his advice is very pertinent to the different types of social media that that I and others are using to get their content out there. The third thing I like about the book is that it's a pretty easy read. Now, I bought this book after watching Roberto talk about a topic. He does a lot of live videos. So he talked about the book. It's not that expensive. I went and bought it. Actually, it is, how much did I pay for this? 1 second. So I bought this book for $14.99 on Amazon. And so it's a pretty easy read. So I got the book. I read like the preface and like the first chapter or two, just when I first got it, because I just got it and just started going through it. And then ended up finishing the book as I was flying cross country to Los Angeles from DC and then back over like, I think it was like a Saturday and a Wednesday. So just a couple days. And so I read I read a chunk of the book on my way to LA and a chunk of my book back to DC. So again, pretty easy read. It wasn't anything that was super jargony. It was something that where Roberto, in the way that Roberto talks in his YouTube videos, which I highly recommend checking out his videos. In the same way he speaks, he also is writing, and so it's very, clear language, very again personable, that type of thing. So again, it's not something that's super jargony, that's super all over the place. It's something that you can easily read and get through. Again, over 2 days, well, I guess 3 or 4 hours to California, 4 to 6 hours, and then 4 to 6 hours back, and then I had read like an hour or two, so not that long. So like 10 hours to get through the whole book, and that was just kind of reading it just kind of at a leisurely pace. Now, as a college professor, I don't have a lot of time to read for pleasure, and so with this book, because it's easy to read, I was able to kind of get it in during that free time, and so I definitely appreciate those type of books. On a side note, I'm also reading a book called The Silent Twins, which I'll be The Silent Twins, which I will be reviewing about mid-December. Most of my content deals with race, especially in particular Black British culture, and so this is something along those lines. So I'll be reading this and reviewing this as my next book review in mid-December. Again, also really easy to read and pretty straightforward language. And so, what did I not like about the book? Well, the first thing can come off as a bit nitpicky, and I'm just going to kind of say this is not an indictment on Mr. Blake. One issue with the book is there are a lot of little typos and things in there that is really more of an issue on the publisher rather than the writer. As someone who writes articles, and I have published articles within sociology, different sociology journals, as well as like bound like book volumes as well. As someone who does that, has published research, I know that things can get through the kind of publication process, so typos and things like that. So I totally understand. It's one of those things that as you're kind of reading through the book, they happen just every so often, and it kind of throws you off a bit. Now, one in particular was at the very beginning of the book. There was a quote where you have weather spelled WHETHER, when it should be weather spelled WEATHER, like weather the storms. Because there's a misspelling in that quote, it really kind of just throws you off at the very beginning of the book before you read much of the book. Now, again, this isn't an indictment on Mr. Blake. It's more so on there's people in the process of publishing books that should catch that type of stuff, and they didn't in this case. Now, another thing that I didn't like about the book that is more of an indictment on Mr. Blake is that sometimes he uses a lot of these hypotheticals when in fact I think it would be better served to use real world examples. For example, he talks about how to build $1 million internet business. Now, he's talked about how he's not an internet millionaire yet, but based on kind of what he's done, he's going in that direction. And again, this is as of when I'm publishing this video. However, when he talks to that chapter, rather than reaching out to say someone like Mr. Beast, who is an internet millionaire, who happens to also be from my hometown in Greenville, North Carolina, just a side note. But the point is, he could reach out to other big YouTubers who have made $1 billion businesses online, but rather he kind of does this very hypothetical, almost like looking into his imagination as to how you would do this. And so I just find that he does a lot of practical things based on what he's done, and I really wish he could have reached out and got more examples from other people, even in areas where he didn't do that himself. And so that's just another weakness of the book. Again, overall a strong book, but that's just one place where he could have done better. So, should you read this book or just skip it? I would say that this would be a must-read book for anyone who's trying to do content creation as their full-time job. Also, as someone like myself who wants to do it as a side hustle, essentially, I would suggest they read the book as well. The book provides a lot of very practical advice. He uses real examples most times. Again, there are a few places, as I mentioned, where he doesn't. But when he uses these real world examples, especially using his own journey, I think is really helpful, especially someone who's trying to build content themselves or a body of content that they can use and monetize going forward. So definitely read this book, especially if you are an aspiring YouTuber. And it's also really good advice that goes beyond just, not just YouTuber, but content creator. And so there's also really good advice that goes beyond internet entrepreneurship as well. So again, like dealing with criticism, which as a professor, you deal with, as well as imposter syndrome, all these things that people deal with, especially in professional areas where your expertise is kind of like your calling card. I think this advice is really useful for people who aren't just in internet entrepreneurship. That being said, the majority of the audience who are going to benefit from this book are people who are trying to do content creation at least part-time, and this advice, especially in the period we're in now, is very useful. And so if you found this review helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video with anyone you think might be interested in either this review or the book itself. Also, please leave a comment in the comment section below with suggestions for other books you might want me to review. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.